It's another episode of Fridays with Freddie. Fred, great to have you back. Fred was on vacation, rested up, ready to go. Fred, I want to set this up this way. So while you were gone, I had an opportunity to keynote at the Innovations Conference, which was put on by the League for Innovation for the Community Colleges, right? A few hundred people there. It was great. My topic was the three challenges the future needs us to solve right now and what to do about it. And one of the challenges I identified was what I call the data tsunami. And that's the topic I want to kind of unpack with you. And we're talking about how the amount of data that's building up it's building up at like tsunami size. None of our data at higher ed talks to each other, and there's way more data than we think. And I said it's more than just what's in your student system or what's in your LMS and getting those to talk together. It's like when students enter and leave classrooms, there's data being generated. When they request a transcript, there's data being generated. Right? When they go in and out of the dorm, when they join a club or don't attend that club meetings, there's all data being generated, none of which is in play, but it's still being generated, right? That's the tsunami. And my point was that if we want to really take advantage of AI, if we really want to improve the student experience, we got to wrap our heads around that and go after that and have a plan. So with that as the backdrop, I was thinking to myself, even as I was speaking, I can't wait for Fred to come back because I want to see his perspective and get his point of view on all of this. And you have a way of taking these bigger concepts and kind of distilling it down to something more actionable for leaders. So that's it. That's my setup. If you can just take it and run with it and kind of share your opening thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Good morning. Look, I mean, distilling it down to something more digestible and simple is simply because that's what I need to be able to do my job, right? When I was running IT shops or part of IT shops in higher education, you could boil the ocean, and then there's what can I do in the next little while to get to at least get some incremental improvement. So I'll give it a shot. So I think my first reaction to the comment that there's a tsunami of data is my first reaction is it truly a tsunami of data, or is it that now we're in a position where we really need to start to connect all the data? As you know, Joe, we have several very prominent clients. These are world-leading research institutions, multi-divisional, multi-billion-dollar organization with world-class data centers, et cetera. And even at those institutions, what we see is that from a day-to-day perspective, the data that's being used is being used at a very high level, but it's siloed. And even at these institutions that have all of the funds, all of the people, all of the data scientists, they still are not even at a stage where they have a data dictionary, where everybody can agree that, okay, well, when we say full-time student, it means this. This is our definition for a full-time student. So that's one of the things that we're helping them with. So my comment would be is that struggling with data has been part and parcel of what IT shops and organizations and data shops have had to struggle with for many, many years. And there is a technology component, which is, okay, well, first of all, how do you get all the data out, or how do you connect the data? And then when you talk about connecting the data, well, how do you connect the data? What method do you use to actually connect the data and normalize the data? So we know about data lakes and data warehouses and predictive analytics and et cetera, et cetera. So people have been, and institutions have been working on this for literally decades.
Yeah.
So there is the technology part, and then there's the cultural part. So from a cultural perspective, is this truly a data-driven organization? One of the things, Joe, that I'm struggling with is that even when you say things like, we're a data-driven organization.
Or we want to make data-driven decisions.
Right. We want to make data-driven decisions, et cetera. Yes, but I've been hearing that for decades, literally decades. So are you or are you not? And if you're not, what's standing in the way? And I think now with AI, I think there's going to be a fork in the road a little bit. So we all understand that if we are going to deploy AI at an institution, it needs to be done safely, securely, and ethically, right? That's one component. Second component is how much do we not just use AI to then improve our service provisioning, our service delivery, our workflows, et cetera? Can we actually use AI to clean up all of the data? right? Because for me, AI is moving at such a speed. I think it's feasible. If I just look at technologies we have today, as you know, ServiceNow is one of our partners. ServiceNow has one of their platforms is a data mining platform. It's literally a data scraper that could go into your database, get everything out, and map the relationships between all of the data points. Is it perfect? Of course not. There's still a lot of manual work that needs to happen, and normalizations and decisions on, well, this data element is X, this data element is Y, and here's how it connects. But I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility that we're not that far away that we can deploy an AI platform on top of all your systems, and it'll do it for you.
I was just going to say, but that's where the tsunami part in my mind comes up. That's where I picture the tsunami is. As soon as the school says, we want to join the AI race, well, then you no longer can look at, oh, what's in our SIS or what's in our CRM. You're now looking at a tsunami of data that you have to look at. And to your point, normalize, build a dictionary around. It's not as simple as, oh, XYZ software that we've been using for 10 years now says it has AI in it. Well, fine, it has AI in it for that body of data. But what does it have to do with my student experience? It doesn't. It's just one little bucket of data with some AI sitting on top. It's what's going to take all your buckets and look at it through one AI lens and then start to deliver, right? I think that's the holy grail of this all, and that's what we're spending so much time on. So that's what I want to kind of get your perspective on data. And let's keep talking, but eventually I want to get to what's 1, 2, or 3 things a school should have already done or should be in the process of doing related to data, right? That's kind of the end goal of where I want to get to. But keep setting this up for us so we don't miss something.
And that's the good news. The good news is that a lot of the things that are needed for that very rich data future are the exact same things that you either have done or are actively working on or should have done for the last couple of decades, right? So, but before I dive into that, I just wanted to make one comment. Look, for a lot of people, AI, if you haven't studied LLMs, right? If you haven't studied in how LLMs actually get created and how they do their quote unquote thinking, the math behind it is surprisingly simple. There's no complicated math that runs LLM. It's college level math. Similarly, the things that a school can do are the basic things that you should have been doing. Number one, do you have a data strategy? It starts there.
Unpack that for a second. When you say, do you have a data strategy? Before I jump in and say, yes, we do.
Yeah.
What would cause me to check the box saying, yes, that's a real data strategy? Are there a couple elements that should be in a data strategy to say, check the box?
Yeah, so I think at the most basic end, but it's also at the highest level is are you controlling your data sufficiently? Is it secure? Is it ethically used? Secondarily, do you have a team or people that are actually thinking about data, making sure that data is clean, making sure that data is used appropriately? Do you know where all your data is? Do you understand the relationships between all of the data? And when I say somebody that's responsible for it, because what I mean with that is that there are people within the organization today, especially a lot of your report writers, right? If you have a lot of your report writers, by the way, I don't think a lot of organizations should have report writers. I think,
but historically they needed that,
right? Where it lives and how they
to query
together,
it,
how to query it, etc. But that's not necessarily a data person. So my advice would be have a data strategy from the perspective of, okay, do we know where all the data is? Do we know who's handling it? Do we know how to use it? Do we know how to combine it? And then the secondarily, okay, where do we put it? Right? Because there's structured data and unstructured data. So there is a data warehouse, great. Really, you would like to get to a point where you have a data lake where you can put structured and unstructured data. But then how do you clean it up? Who cleans it up? Are there tools that you can use with that? There's machine learning.
There certainly are,
tools right now that can help you with that. As a matter of fact, one of our clients, we have a partner that has built a machine learning platform that cleans up duplicate IDs,
right. which is a staggering amount of
in seconds
data. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So data strategy from that point is, do you know what you want to do with data? Which direction do you need to go? And do an assessment of where you are, which is some of the things that we can help you with. Where are you? Where do you want to go? What's your pathway?
Yeah.
I think it
And one
starts
way
there.
one of the ahas I had was for one of the schools that we're working with on their AI plan. We had them do a data dump out of their SIS, and then that same group of students a data dump of LMS. And I think it's just a great exercise for every school to do. Just take 100, 200 students worth of data out of your LMS and SIS. Just look at it, right? Two different companies built it, two different structures, two different sets of tables, all that. But just look at it and try and make sense of it. And you'll realize how much work there's ahead, which is why I love your idea of, hey, that's just two systems.
Yeah.
If you got 40 systems worth of stuff, can AI help clean some of it up and normalize it and
Right.
make sense of it? And then maybe one of these third-party partners who've specialized in cleanup of data, can they help you get to a point where your data is a little bit better off before you then put it, like you're saying,
Right.
in the right repository? Okay, so let's say I can check the box to say we either have a strategy or, you know what, that's the first thing we're going to go do. Let's go get a data strategy built. Okay, what's next?
I think next is, as part of that data strategy, is what's your integration strategy? Because then there is how do you actually physically connect all of the systems and the sources, right? Because sometimes it's a system, sometimes, it might be an Excel spreadsheet that somebody's running at a particular division, and, no, we need to use that spreadsheet. Okay, fine. So I think that's really important. And again, nothing new under the sun. Integration strategies, API strategy, ETL strategy, that's something that's part and parcel of any.
But historically,
any
historically, when we would go do an integration strategy, it was because we were moving SISs, right? And we had to go figure out, everything integrated here. So the reason for integration strategy in the past was always institutional and technological. It wasn't for a better experience. It was just because we were lifting and shifting software. So to your point, having an integration strategy around with the end goal of a better experience in mind,
right,
may be beneficial.
Yeah. And that's one of the cultural shifts that I've seen over the last 2 decades, especially. So one of these struggles that technology departments had and organizations had was, we have so many systems, we have so many service requests, we have so many things we need to work on, we have so many priorities, that there's been a growth of, what's the word I'm looking for? Frameworks, Agile framework, COBIT framework, Agile framework, Lean framework, green belt, black belt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've seen, unfortunately, this is not obviously when I make these statements, these are not universal statements, but what I've seen, there's a tendency that the frameworks become the job. The frameworks become the outcome. Hey, look at this. I'm really running this great framework. Whereas,
and now I've got 10 people certified in it, and I got 12, and that becomes the mission.
But how does it impact the outcome? Number one, how does it impact the outcome? And I think to your real question, Joe, okay, I'm going to connect all the data. I'm going to have a data strategy. I'm going to have an integration strategy. I'm going to get some data scientists, build a data lake. Okay, then what? Show me how this is going to improve the student experience, for example, or faculty experience or research experience dramatically. So I think we're getting to a point where the customers themselves, the stakeholders themselves, they go like, look, I don't care if you're running Workday, Banner, PeopleSoft, I don't care. Modern Campus, I don't care. What I'm looking at, the information that I need, the information that I need.
Give me my single pane of glass.
Give me my single pane of glass. Yeah. And not even, and I don't talk about dashboards. My daughter said it the best, and I think I've mentioned this numerous times, which is kind of like a light bulb moment for me, right? She's like, Dad, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to get the information. And if I'm talking to someone, can I talk to one person who has all the answers? Now, we know that's not necessarily realistic, but it did give an insight into that generation's thinking. It was like, why am I chasing information, right? So my point being that, okay, your data strategy should lead to something beyond, I'm having a data strategy, I'm having a data science, There's all the operational reports, which are absolutely important. The college or the university definitely needs that, and there's great value in it. I'm not saying that's not the case. But if I'm a faculty member, if I'm a researcher, if I'm a student, why am I still in a 1995 environment? I need this
Right.
to be dramatically increased. So one of the last things I would say, Joe, is that one of the missing components today, let's say I have a data warehouse, a data lake. I've
Yeah.
connected all of my data, etc. How am I going to get a true 360 view of the student as he or she is today, but also being to strategize and predict and help them go through the process of different scenarios of the future? And I think that will require some type of knowledge graph technology that can truly take a data from every single source and start creating almost like a DNA of a particular student, and being able to cross-reference that with all of the historical data of somebody that has done something similar, right? Really start to help the student think through, or faculty member or researcher, by the way, because research, by the way, is the other big elephant in the room, right? The
Right.
ability for researchers to have access to high quality data, protect that data, and go cross discipline. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, so I'm tracking with you there. If I had my druthers, if I was running an institution, I would almost say, look, this group of you go do what Fred first said, right? Get us a data strategy, get us a data dictionary, get us an integration plan, and get all the data into one place where it's normalized and ready. Like it's almost like that's foundation building, right?
Mm-hmm.
But concurrently, a different set of people with a little different entrepreneurial DNA need to be thinking about, okay, assuming that's there, and it may be 6 months or 12 months or 24
Right.
months away, what are we going to do with it? What's our deployment strategy to now
Right.
deliver different
Yeah.
user experiences, right? For the research professor, for the student, for the person in financial aid. What is life going to be like, and how do we start to design think around those? Because again, once the data is there, that's all it's doing. It's just sitting there, right?
Right.
What do you
Right.
what do you want your AI agents to be trained to do? Because someone's
Right.
going to have to train the AI agents to do stuff with the data. There should be a
Exactly.
different group of people, highly creative, innovative minded people thinking, okay, if the data is perfect
Right.
and we could train AI agents till kingdom come, what can we dream of? And then start to
Exactly.
prioritize, okay, well, of the 50 things we dreamed up, what are the 5 most impactful ones?
Yeah. And again, I suspect that AI is going to get to a sophisticated level where it can connect to all of the data sources and do a lot of that analysis itself. Initially, it won't be perfect because, look, there is very
Yeah.
domain specific information, right? But it'll be able to clean up data automatically, create connections automatically. And again, it'll take a couple of years for some pioneers to work with some of these AI platforms. But once it's trained at one R1 institution, the likelihood that you could just deploy it at another one and all of a sudden have your workload reduced by
Reduce.
75% is very high, I think. And
So,
Joe, these basic things, like for example, a data dictionary. The point of a data dictionary is not just to have a data dictionary. The data dictionary project and process is also designed, or should be designed, for you to start uncovering where are all my data sources, who's in charge of that data, do they understand the data, where are the power dynamics within the organization, because a lot of departments get very protective of their data,
oh,
right?
sure.
They call it their data as opposed to institutional data. So these quote unquote basic steps you can take is not just to get that data dictionary. It's also to start building relationships with all the different departments and the people that matter, so that you're ready for when AI knocks on the door and says, "Hey, okay, so how do I the best way?"
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the human side of all of this, right? And I
Right.
think the reason you're bringing that point up is because of what the work we're doing at that IB Plus, where
Yep.
just building the data dictionary, and we're just starting, is causing conversations that haven't been had in a decade.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
really? You mean that's how you do it? Oh, wait, I
Right.
do it differently. And the human side of it is just as important as all the back
Yeah.
end technology stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up. So, in
Yeah.
summary, then, I think what my takeaway from so far from today's session is there are some very basic block and tackle things. It's heavy lift, but you got to get to work.
Yeah.
The things we've identified, but then don't forget the human side of the conversations
Right.
that kind of become the weave through it, because when it's eventually time to change experience, you need those humans on your side.
Right.
You can't just go take their data and start doing stuff and going, by the way, your whole life has changed, right? Change management side of all this has to begin day one as part of a larger strategy. So that's great. Any closing thoughts? And we can always continue this conversation next time.
Yeah, there's people within your organization who are true data experts, but they might not have that title. Somebody's been working there for 20 years, 30 years, who's been executing on their job, whatever the job is or whatever office, that understand exactly what data they need and how to manage it, but they don't necessarily have the title. So starting with, for example, a data dictionary project is a great way to uncover those people, or at least formalize. So, hey, here's my data experts within the organization.
Yeah.
The challenge will be for a lot of institutions that everybody has 3 things to do within the same hour, and now you're asking them, hey, can I spend an hour with you to talk about data? And data is such a large topic that a lot of people say, well, I can't just talk about it for an hour. This is going to take, right? So to your point about the human and the human components, okay, what can we do incrementally over time that gets us to the outcome? So it's a process that you can't skip. If you want to get to the next level, start it now.
So maybe that's just a project that we're going to recommend that most schools do, is say, hey, and if you have to bring in a consultant to help you, like just get the data dictionary built and get the data strategy built. Just those 2 things will force enough thinking and conversation and engagement, and it'll raise up the right champions, the people who are passionate about data. It'll just organically happen if it's all orchestrated well. But if it's not intentional, to your point, it's so much work to be done, it'll never get done. There has to be an intentional pursuit of a couple of these things that then kind of starts the momentum going towards your AI transformation coming up. So great. Thanks for the conversation, Fred. We'll just keep on this topic of getting ready for AI and adopting AI. And I think in the weeks to come, we'll start talking about some of the actual tools we've built and how they're working out at certain schools, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.